Well, the greatest is when things hold up. They go, wow, that looked exactly like I wanted it to. I'm so glad I got to see it.
Well, and I think the communal experience is very important too, because as you had indicated earlier, there's points where you're like, that beat worked, you know, like this line worked, like this setup all paid off, and you don't get that without the communal experience of the movie going experience, and I am all about that. Oh,
absolutely. Well, especially if it's a comedy.
Yes.
You know, it's one thing to sit and watch a comedy with your parents. Oh, mom and dad laughed at it. That was great.
Right.
But will other people laugh at it?
Oh, sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, even the dramatic things. You know, I've seen documentaries and stuff that were some pretty heavy subjects, and even just the audience in the room, it's palpable. You go, oh, wow, I'm concerned for this person, for this character to agree, but this person's having a real experience, and I'm having it with them, and I am having it with my fellow audience members to go, oh, we care about this person, we care about this character as to what's going to happen to them.
I know one of the experiences that stands out, Eric, you had mentioned comedies, right? Now, I went to a screening probably about 2 years back of Young Frankenstein, right? Great cool. Mel Brooks film.
Sure.
Never seen it before in the big screen, and I went with my mother. She loves those old comedies and whatnot, and it was like 3/4 of the way full auditorium. And this is a movie we've seen like 10,000 times. I mean, you can quote it like with your eyes closed. The whole thing, like Igor, the whole bit.
Walk this way.
But it was so interesting seeing that with a crowd, because there were moments that I think ordinarily like might have just like smiled at or light chuckle, but the impact of it was so much funnier when you're with a crowd, because like they're laughing at something that you're like, oh, I never even realized that being that funny. And then when you see it blown up on the big screen, and of course, you don't have your cell phone, because hopefully you're being a good audience member and not getting on that. But you're noticing little details that you don't pick up when you're watching something on a phone or on a tablet or even your home TV if you don't have a great screen. And I just remember like walking out of that, be like, I cannot believe how many little things in that like I just picked up on the first time, and it never would have happened without seeing it like that.
Sure.
And the same thing goes on the opposite end, where it's like a dramatic thing. You could see a really serious subject matter, and like you just feel the weight of it when the credits roll and like everybody's like dead silent, because it's hitting them on a very deep level, and you're feeling that energy from the crowd. It's just it's hard to explain, but I guess I just did. So
when you're relating to other people,
in
the sense that filmmakers have told us that audience, of course, you recognize where people have different sensibilities than you do, and you go, oh, I didn't really intend that to be funny, but people thought it was funny, so okay. Or audience who go, oh, wait, that guy's laughing. Huh, is that funny? Do I think maybe that is funny, or I wouldn't have taken it that way.
Yeah. I think that's one of the crazy parts about when you do finally release a movie, is it's like, it's out there. It's not mine anymore. It's the audience. They're going to interpret it as they will, and I don't think you can't control all that. And sometimes some of the best things come from when, oh man, I never would have intended it for it to be taken that way, but now it has, and now it's taken a life of its own, and it's a whole thing. So I want to ask also, just kind of going back to the festival this year, how do people get involved? I mean, past attending, of course, which if it's not obvious, please attend the Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival this year. But what about like volunteers, donations? Because I am sure that's like lifeblood to a festival.
We are a completely volunteer-run organization. There are no paid staff on this organization. It's us taking time out of our days, working into the evenings, putting this stuff together, and we've got there's a small group of us that put it together. We also bring in a lot of volunteer interns. Past many years, been using interns. I don't want to say using; that's not probably the best, but
interns have been participating.
Interns have been participating, but they do. But several interns have turned into full-time volunteers with the organization. So I mean. It's great because they tend to bring lots of energy, and fun, and that's probably one of the biggest things about putting on a film festival. At least my feeling is it's got to be fun. You've got to be
absolutely.
enjoying what you're doing. Because it can't feel like another job. It's got to be something where you look forward to, digging in and getting to work.
It's so funny that you say that, because I'm not kidding. I think it was about like in the evening, like 7-8 o'clock last night, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, I'm so excited to have you guys on the podcast, and like this is a great opportunity, and all this different stuff. But I was telling her how I've had a podcast experience, I won't name which one, that I essentially over prepared. Right. Like I sweated so many small details. I got so into all the logistics of it. Everything must be perfect. Right. That by the time I did it, I found myself so focused on like all these other, aspects of the production and whatnot, that it's like, was I even enjoying it? Like in that moment? Right. And, my wife, God bless her, she brought me back to earth, and she's like, remind yourself just why you're doing this. Like if you lose the passion, the enthusiasm that you have, the energy that you bring to it, the rest of the technical stuff, like that, it'll come, right? But you can't lose sight of that, because I agree wholeheartedly that it's like, you got to enjoy it. Yeah, you absolutely have to enjoy it.
And we're looking for, and we're, by the way, I want to say we are looking for more volunteers for, not only for the event itself, but we're recruiting board members, because we've found that the more people that get involved makes lighter work for us.
How many people are on the board typically, if it's full?
Right now there's 4 of us.
Okay.
So it's.
Is there a limit? Like how many people could be on the board?
No. 5 to 6 or some years in the room you've got 10 people maybe for various things. But
what do you look for in a board applicant? Like
passion,
just passion, right?
And experience. Not even experience, I suppose, but just a perspective. Something different. We're not. We'll admit we're not experts at nonprofit organization management. We're not really all that good at fundraising, but we have to do those things because we're a nonprofit organization and we have a budget. So, we bring in people like, we like to bring in people like that know that world, or people that understand events, or people that are just, involved in their community, or want to see things happen in the community that are fun and that are art centric.
Absolutely. Now, how many volunteers, give or take, does it take typically, like, to run the festival? I mean, like, how many do you usually like to have if you're in a perfect world?
It's nice to have 20 or 30, depending on various things, but we've got, the diehards who are there from start to finish.
Have you had anyone that's been a volunteer since 2004?
Well, the 2 of us.
Right. But I took a decade off too, so.
Oh, that's true. I'm trying to remember who. I'm probably the only constant for that long, but we did have people for 5, 6, 10 years or more.
I think that's great, though. I know like so many things in life change. People move, their occupations change and whatnot. But if you can get people to come back, not just for a one-time run.
I actually did have somebody who was an intern long ago, and I asked them once. I realized they were back in the area a couple of years later, and said, "Hey, would you like to come do this?" And she's been with us for another 10, 12 years.
So if someone wants to volunteer right now, what do they got to do?
There's a spot on the website to contact us.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Go to the Get Involved page on our website. We've got information about volunteering. We've got information about the board. There's a place to donate if you're so inclined. Yeah.
What do donations go towards? I mean, if you could explain that just a little bit more. I mean, like, because I don't know if necessarily everybody would fully understand the costs of running and operating the festival.
Well, producing the festival, everything goes straight to that. We've got expenses for all sorts of things, keeping the website up, making the awards, making the programs,
shirts, printed materials. Why am I drawing a blank? I've been dealing with this.
It's all right.
We're adding some of these things that we're adding this year are costing money, or we're needing to find in-kind type donations. We're doing a VIP lounge, which is something new this year.
How's that work?
I don't know. We're gonna find out.
Okay.
No, it's something that it's something that I've been, I'm a filmmaker myself, and I've been to festivals, and one thing that I've seen and I've experienced at some festivals were these places where, as a filmmaker, you can just kind of go and get away, or you can go and network with other filmmakers, outside the chaos of the theater, or Bruce's concessions are amazing. They're great.
Yeah.
But if you've been eating popcorn for 10 hours straight, you might want something else. So we just want to give filmmakers a place where they can kind of decompress a little bit, network.
Yeah.
We're going to have things for them to do, meet each other, talk, have a snack or something that's something different. That kind of stuff takes sponsorship. It takes either in-kind donations or financial donations. That stuff doesn't just fall into our laps.
And what do volunteers do? I know you said, like, ideally in a perfect world you get like 20, 30 people. Like, what are they all going to do?
Well, there's various roles. Some of them probably by more established people who've been along for a little bit, but we need people to run the theater. We need people to run projection. We need people to introduce the films, work in the lobby. We have a merchandise table where filmmakers can bring in if they've got some physical media or various other things they'd like to
physical media.
Sell.
Sorry, like hashtag physical media. I love it. I mean, you guys saw I got a movie collection, so I still collect.
So yeah, all sorts of things. Even just to keep track of the films that things are running the way they're supposed to.
Sure.
That's always something we need. So yeah, there's a lot of different roles. Just a question of what your strong suits are and what you're interested in participating in.
Yeah, I mean, photographers, videographers, because we want to document this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's something for for anyone.
Well, I would hope you understand that ScreenSpeak has you covered from a podcast platform.
Podcasting. Excellent.
I got to throw that in there.
We'll put you on the list.
So I want to talk a bit more about some of the logistics on here, and then we'll keep going on here.
Sure.
But I'm just really fascinated with all the moving pieces that go into a festival, between the operations side of it, the communications, how you market it, you get the judges, you already told me you have a board that you're seeking members for, recruiting volunteers and the raising of the fundraising. I mean, I guess I just want to hear your thoughts on how you manage all that and, some of the challenges, frankly, that come with it.
Well, 2009, 2010, we have a lovely board member now who's back. Mandy Maring is her name. And she said, you really got to organize some of this because it's all in your head. And you've got to get this in a way we can follow a list. So she developed a lovely spreadsheet for us that we refer to lovingly as the task sheet.
The task sheet. And
it's divided into various time periods. So things like the call for entries, or the pre-season, the call for entries, the judging, the pre-festival, the festival, and the follow-up. So just organizing that is quite an undertaking.
Yeah.
And trying to keep us as creatives on task is a pretty big, undertaking as well. So just that kind of stuff. And I would say if you're interested, certainly we need operations things just like anybody else does.
Yeah.
And if you have hard skills like accounting or management and that kind of stuff, those are something everyone needs, and especially to corral the creative folks to go, okay, yes, that was great, we talked about that movie, let's continue on here because the hour grows late. But just getting those things, everybody needs that. Everyone needs an accountant. Everyone needs people who are good with the numbers.
Yeah.
We each have our own set of skills. But in putting together the schedule, that's one of those things where you're just beating your head against the wall sometimes because you're trying to figure out how do we shoehorn this many hours into this thing.
Speaking of the schedule, because I couldn't help but think about this, when you both were talking about the sheer variety of films, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you have documentaries about farming, you have all kinds of different things going on, and I imagine subject-wise, some things are rather serious, some things are rather funny. When you go into creating the schedule for the films, do you purposely try to, almost like curating a playlist, like try to put things that make sense together, or are you just kind of like, you know what, it fits within this time slot, it just works?
Here's a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Everybody listen really closely. So when we sit down, we have the list of, we know how many hours we can program. We sit down with a spreadsheet with all the blocks, colored, nice colors and times and everything, and just start pulling longest to shortest into the timeline. Say, okay, we have an hour and a half long documentary. We need to toss that in there. Okay, what's the next longest? What's the next longest? What's the next? Start throwing them into the thing, making sure, because one of the great things about our festival is that we show every film twice.
Really?
Lots of festivals only do one screening. We have from very early on have done 2 screenings.
Why 2 screenings?
Because it gives people an opportunity to see a film that, say they were in one of the other theaters and they missed out on this film, so they can go see it later on.
So you space them out a little bit.
Yeah. We're not playing the same film opposite itself. We're like playing, if you've got a Saturday morning screening, maybe your other screening is Friday night or Saturday night.
Okay.
So it gives people an opportunity to see more films. You're not stuck, well, I missed that film, I guess I can't see it.
Well, and it makes sense because if you have, 51 films? If you have 51 films, I mean, that's a lot to remember, right? I mean, for a lot of them. So, yeah, I think giving people the benefit of seeing it, either if they liked it once, they want to see it again, or if they didn't catch it the first time, right?
Well, and it gives the filmmaker, twice as many eyes on their film.
It's true.
They get more exposure that way. So so a lot of that is taking longest to shortest initially and just saying, where can we slot these into the schedule? And once we've kind of figured out, okay, we've got the space kind of worked out, we know where things can fit, then it's a matter of going back and saying, okay, what's going to play well with this? What can we play opposite a film? Are there a couple of films that we know that based on past experience that are probably going to have a different audience? A different target audience. Do we feel comfortable putting those 2 films in separate theaters, opposite one another, and it's not going to create too many headaches? But a lot of it comes down to where we've got a 15-minute block here. What 15-minute film will fit in here, and what 15-minute film, especially when you're thinking in terms of shorts. You might have a bunch of 5-minute, 10-minute shorts. You want to stack those up, and you want to make. It's kind of an interesting dance between, I want to make films that play nice with one another, but I also want to make them different enough that people see something different. Like they might have gone to see, a hip-hop music video. Cool. Maybe the next one is a short horror film or a short documentary or something. Just... we don't try and say, oh, this is our documentary block, or this is our music video block, or this is our horror block. It's mixing them up just so that people can see a variety. If they only have a couple hours to spend, if they only can come to one block, they have the opportunity to see a variety of things. If they're so inclined. If they want to see, I'd like to check out a documentary, maybe a couple of shorts and a couple of comedies. Hey, if I go to Saturday morning, I can catch this would be perfect.
Mostly based on time, but yeah, we try and curate it to some degree that is feasible. But Eric's exactly right. Sometimes you try and pair things together that work. Other times you want to change things up a little bit for the audience. Well, the audience maybe wouldn't have attended these 2 things together, but it will expose them to something new. So if they hang out for that block, wow, that was something I wouldn't have necessarily sought out, but to see it was a really good experience.
And the schedule is never going to be perfect. There's always going to be something that we'll look and say, God, I really wish we could have put this film with this film. Or a filmmaker will come, and say, why was my film programmed then and as opposed to then? And it's like, well, that's where it fit best in the block. We've got a lot of films we need to program, and it's where we could fit it in, and it's where it works. So.
Well, that's an interesting challenge. I mean, you try and do the best you can, but once you release these things, everyone's got their own perspective of, oh, well, my film's against this thing, or it's at this time. It's like, okay, yes. I mean, if you're looking at it from just your point of view, sure, that maybe isn't the best lineup for you, but it's where it worked.
And then there's always the inevitable audience question. Okay, so I'm coming to this block. Which films should I see? Should I go into this film? Should I go into theater 1 first and then go to theater 2 for this film?
What
would you think?
Perfect strategy for figuring this out.
Yeah, what do you, the general, what's good?
Yeah,
everything's good. We wouldn't have put it on the screen if it wasn't good. But it's like that old question of what's your favorite movie, which
God.
is one I can never ever answer.
No,
but to have
it's impossible.
A general audience member go, oh, what should I see? I don't know. What do you like? Give me any clues to go on.
You know, it's making me think of a few things. Like, I mean, one, I think it's great actually that a festival has so many different entrants into it, because that's, to me, one of the favorite parts of movies and filmmaking, and it could just be because I'm open-minded. But I love it when I go into either something blind. You know, I didn't see the trailer for it. I don't know anything about the filmmaker. This is a genre I never touch. And then you walk away, you're like, oh my God. Like, you almost are at a loss for words, because you're just like, I would never have seen that coming. And I think that's just interesting for the average moviegoer as well, because so much of the, you know, exhibition experience and going out to a theater is you probably reserved your ticket ahead of time, you got your seat reserved, you know exactly what you're in for, you probably studied the marketing or watched like 3 trailers beforehand. Whereas this, it's so different because you're going into movies virtually blind, knowing very little, I assume. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff on the website that talks about like the blocks and the scheduling and whatnot, but you still don't know really much of anything. So you don't know what you're going to get. I think that's exciting. To me, that's very exciting
experience. That's why I like going to both our festival and other festivals too, where you just go, this is an interesting body of work that I certainly wouldn't have seen together anywhere else.
What other festivals have you guys been to?
Julian Dubuque is good.
Dubuque's an amazing festival. I mean, they're an internationally recognized, movie maker, one of Movie Maker's top 50 festivals. They do a wonderful job up there. Iowa Independent Film Festival is a good festival. Oneota, I mean, this is obviously pre-recorded, but Oneota up in Decorah is happening right now. Snake Alley's a good. There are so many festivals in Iowa. If you can't find a festival and a film that you're enjoying, that you want to enjoy, then you're not looking hard enough, because there are festivals aplenty.
So I want to ask about some of the partnerships that I noticed that you guys have between Produce Iowa, the Wired Group, of course, Collins Row. We talked about that, but some of these other partnerships, I was hoping you could maybe elaborate a little bit about what they bring to the festival. Their involvement with it. We could start with Produce Iowa.
Well, Produce Iowa is the state film office, essentially. And so they're the hub of contacts for people doing production in the state, people bringing production into the state. And they've got a lot of resources, lists, and contacts of people that, hey, we're looking for X number of crew members or this type of person, or a location scout, or anything to do with the state of Iowa, especially coming from outside.
Or we're looking for locations.
So they are the, call it the administrative contact for the state in terms of production. And they've been wonderful partners with us, helping us get the word out about the festival.
Sure.
Helping various productions have contact with the state. So it's just a good administrative partner with the state and with all the festivals to keep us connected as an Iowa entity. And
they're very supportive of all the film organizations, all the festivals in the state. It's really great.
Now, how many, I assume, is this the organization that if, I don't know, let's say I was part of a major studio film and I wanted to shoot in Iowa, would I potentially talk to this organization and get that to happen?
This should be your first call.
Yep.
Should be the first call. Because, I mean, of course, I'm not someone that understands fully how you go about whether you decide to shoot in this state or not, and tax laws and things like that. I'm sure there's a lot of red tape like anything else, right?
Sure.
But I just think it's interesting to understand how many, movies actually just get shot here, past just the ones that are being shot independently.
Sure.
Sure. Oh, there's quite a few. I mean, we start looking around, there's things that are shot here that you don't realize were shot here necessarily. Just like many productions go to Canada or various other things that are played off as a different location, Iowa stands in for lots of places and has been itself many different times.
What about the Wired Group?
Wired Group, that is my my employer, Wired Production Group. Full service event and video production company. Our one of our big, we have two things. We do corporate events primarily and concert events. So if you see the LED screens at a concert, we do the LED screens and the sound and the lighting and the staging for concerts.
What stuff have you done and has Wired been a part of in the area here?
We do the Mississippi Valley Fair. We do a bunch of stuff. We have a really good relationship with several of the casinos for their outdoor shows and indoor shows. Yeah, a lot of the smaller, like we don't do a lot of really huge acts, but we do have a crew that travels with country artist Cody Johnson, which has been a really fun thing. I've gotten to go on a couple of those shows and work for that. That's a lot of fun. The concerts are really fun. That's kind of I look at it as one of the perks of the job is I get to go see concerts, and I mean, I'm sure I'm standing behind a camera, but what the heck, But then we do a lot of corporate stuff, a lot of corporate events, and gala event type of things, and then we also do traditional video production. Do
you ever look for like any other corporate sponsors, or do you look for other partners that are interested in contributing? Or I guess I'm just curious how you acquire the business side of it.
Sure. Well, always interested in people who are wanting to support community events. It's usually pretty easy to find folks that are interested in doing that. Of course, they've got limited funds, so they've got to select who and what they're going to support. But looking for people who are interested in building up the arts community in Iowa. Certainly films is an interesting and fun way to do that as well. I would say probably Wired in theory could be a film crew if someone were so inclined.
We've got a lot of people who have who are in the production industry or have been in the production industry.
So yeah, they were a natural fit for all sorts of reasons.
So I also want to ask you guys just about some of the past filmmakers that have come out of the festival and films that either have won the awards or they garner a lot of audience attention and whatnot. What would you guys consider to be just some overall past successes? I mean, I'm going to mention Brian.
Scott Beck and Brian Woods.
Scott Beck and Brian Woods. That's what I was trying to say. But I mean, just what are some of the successes that you've seen from people that have been a part of the festival?
Well, those guys obviously are the biggest names that that kind of become household names now.
We've had a lot of people whose names you wouldn't recognize, but are participating in massive productions. We had some folks that were submitting films that were like PAs on some of the Batman movies. At one point we had Gary Oldman was in a short film that was submitted by someone who knew him through their other production experience, and this was one of their first short films they were doing, so they had a couple different names like that in there. But I would say you're not going to recognize a lot of names. Like, we don't have bold-faced marquee names necessarily, but a lot of production in Iowa is a couple of steps away from those things.
Sure.
Like, they're on the crew, they're on the set. They might not be on the poster necessarily, but they're certainly involved in some big-name things.
Yeah, and we don't think, when we say, we've had several filmmakers that have come to our festival that are now successes. Yeah, we're not talking about the marquee names. We're talking about, hey, this person came through the festival as a young filmmaker, as a student.
Yeah.
And now they're actually, working in a major market, and they're making a living at it, and they're happy with what they're doing.
There's a lot of different definitions of first, just for what success means to people.
Sure.
I think, that's a whole subject in and of itself, but certainly in entertainment, the average audience member should understand that there are more people besides the people in the poster, the people that are in the main credits, the associate producers, executive producers, the writers, and cinematographers. Like, there are a lot of people that make that stuff happen.
For sure.
And you're absolutely right. There are people that for years and years, they can get steady work and work on some great projects, creative projects, and they'll never be heard of, But that's not what it's about, right?
Well, there's even some production houses in the state that you wouldn't necessarily, an average person wouldn't recognize by name.
Yeah.
But they are contributing graphics, they're contributing video, they're contributing other production and editing services. If you sit through the credits of a major motion picture, you're looking at thousands of people who are participating in one way or another.
And you don't necessarily know where they're at.
Yeah.
Especially for VFX and things like that. You don't have to be anywhere for that. That's all, done on your computer. You can be in another country or whatever.
I still say to this day, might be a little bit of a squirrel moment here, but Academy Awards are going to be coming up here. Actually, what day is the Academy Awards? I should probably know that.
From now or so.
Soon. But there's several categories just in the awards space that, don't really get their due credit. One of the ones that comes to mind for me is the stunt community. I do not understand for the life of me why these people that are literally risking their life and quite literally limbs are not recognized for the craft. Not to say that, again, the award is going to be the end all be all of their career, but it's like if they're putting the blood, sweat, and tears of this thing, these movies do not happen without them. And again, I'm just trying to tie that back to what you guys are talking about with some of these people that don't, they might not be a marquee name, as you said, but they made this happen.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of those people, certainly.
I also want to ask just this is kind of more of a general question, but, someone like myself, guys, I'll be perfectly frank with you. If I could go back in time into a time machine, I'd probably go back into film school and who knows, maybe one day I might.
Guys, I say you're still young.
Yeah. I mean, it's never too late, but I know for a long time for someone like myself, and there's other people I know where the creative arts and that field, it almost seems like unobtainable in a way where it's like, how can I even make a sustainable living off of doing some of this stuff? Because people eventually, they get caught up into a career and then they get bills, and before they know it, they're like, well, my time is already spread thin. I'm now in a place where putting the effort I want to do into this, I don't know if I could give it the all I want to give it to, that kind of thing. And I'm not saying you guys have the defining answer for that. There is none in life. But I just think with the space that you operate in and that you get to connect with creatives on the festival and your own experience and whatnot, what would you say to people that are trying to get some hope or some sort of direction as far as how they can contribute to the creative arts and not lose their livelihood over it?
Sure. I would say start small. Start in some manageable ways that you can kind of dip your toe in a little bit. We talked about how easy how accessible production has become.
More than ever today.
I was just involved tangentially and briefly with some filmmakers who were part of a 48-hour film festival challenge, and they had taken it upon them. They were these professional guys. They had taken it upon themselves to shoot their entire project on the phone. So just remove all of the extra pieces and say, okay, we're shooting everything on the phone. It's going to be real simple. We're just going to run and gun and get through this at a lower technical investment compared to what they were doing for major features and things. So I would say invest your creative energy into bite-sized chunks. One of the things that I have done is work with filmmakers on their script, just do some script consulting. And that, it takes a fair amount of time while you're doing it, but is not something you've got to invest months of your life at a time into, where going onto a film set would. So I would encourage you to both attend the festival and then network with some folks to just say, hey, we'd like to kick around some ideas.
Yeah.
We'd like to make some scripts, make some outlines, share some story concepts, and just discuss them. So I would start some small pieces and just see where it goes.
Yeah. And if you're interested in just kind of seeing what it's about, maybe you don't have any experience at all, but you think that sounds kind of cool. Get in touch with filmmakers. Talk to filmmakers at the festival and say, hey, what are you doing? What's your next project? If there's a film that you thought, hey, this is great, I really want to talk to this filmmaker. Talk to us. Say, hey, what are you doing next? Do you need any help? I'd love to just come and help out on your set as a production assistant or whatever. Or I can help with just to get exposed to the industry, just to get exposed to the production environment.
I think what I've learned, and I've taken those small steps, as you said, and in certain cases I think I've taken larger steps as well. But the constant through line that I heard from what both you say and any other people I asked this question to is the proactiveness of this. Because I think that's ultimately the first place I find that you really have to start with is the opportunity does not just come to you. You need to put the work in, right? You have to absolutely reach out and do it, even if you get told no 1,000 times and 1,000 times over. you have to have the will in you to take those chances and put yourself out there. And I think if you can just accept that and know that you got to do it, I mean,
and it's hard. It is not an easy thing to do.
No, it's absolutely not. I'd be lying if I said I've never had my creative teeth kicked in a few times. But I just try to think, try to be resilient about it and understand that you don't learn without those past times in your life. And again, I try to promote that message to my audience when possible, is just really don't give up on it and know that you gotta get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You're going to have to experience things that you don't do, and it's not going to go perfect. It's not.
Sure.
But I've noticed any success I've had in my own life has come because people, I think, can recognize that there's a hunger that I at least have, and I have a willingness to learn, and I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong either. That's another big thing I would tell the creative folks out there. Don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can't let the pride get in the way too much. That's how we grow.
Sure. I'd get out there and try some stuff. I mean,
absolutely.
The most important thing to realize, I think, is that any creative person has something unique, in the sense that no one else has your lived experience, no one else has your background or the perspective that you're looking at things. Think of any of the great films that we've seen. Someone had that idea, and they wouldn't have had it had it not been for everything else that came before in their life.
I gotta change this out one more time, and then we're gonna start wrapping up.
All right.
I don't know what's the longest you've sat and talked to somebody. You have to think about that for a little bit, right?
Oh, hours and hours.
Have you really sat with someone and talk for literally hours and hours?
There are some people I don't see, especially filmmaker people, who we get into it and you suddenly go, oh, they're closing the bar and this is happening. Now we're standing in the parking lot and no, good, I should have left hours and hours ago. Oh yeah, I get rolling. It's hard to shut me up. Some
of the best conversations you can have, though, are the ones where you don't plan on it, and before you know it, you're just like, holy God! Did 3 hours just pass by?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my Lord. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna go back to just what we were talking about before. Now, let's hit everybody with the key details of the festival. Let's review the dates. Times. Let's go through that one more time.
April 14th through the 16th. Starting at about 1:20 on the 14th, going till about 10:30 that night. Starting at 9 a.m. on Saturday, going through again about, the films are showing through about 9:30, and then there's the Eddie Award ceremony brought to you by Farmer State Bank. Thank you, Farmer State Bank.
Thank you, farmers.
We'll put a little plug in there for those folks. And we do the Eddies. And then on Sunday, the Student Cinema Sunday activities start at noon and go through about 4 o'clock.
Now, is the award ceremony at Collins Road Theater still?
Yep.
Okay. And how does it work? Do you do it in one of the auditoriums?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, it's in one of the auditoriums, and it's also included in any ticket purchase if you'd like to attend the awards.
So someone could they could show up as long as they got a ticket.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. If they came to Friday afternoon and they didn't go to any other ones, they're still welcome to come to the Eddies.
That's awesome. Far as screen speak goes and whatnot, I'm obviously hopeful to continue doing some content with you guys, doing things like that. Do you guys have any other podcasters that are going to be present at all?
I don't think so.
Not aware of any.
Not their recording.
Okay. Well,
I might have some that attend, but more as probably as filmmakers than as podcasters.
Well, I'm hopeful to obviously take an active involvement with that, and we can talk about that.
Certainly. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I think it would be great to get some of our filmmakers to sit in with you. I think several of them could offer both affirming and contrasting opinions to what Scott and I offer. About this festival experience and about their experiences as being filmmakers.
Final questions that I got for you guys. One, if either of you, you talked about the impossible name your favorite movie question. I can't stand the question myself. Maybe favorite movies, but even that's a stretch if you're not in the right mood and whatnot.
Right.
What are just some favorite entries that have come across from the festival that you're like, man, I remember that thing like, you know, from 10 years ago, and it still sticks with me?
I remember one from 21 years ago, and it stuck with me for the sense of it absolutely fit the spirit of the festival. It was called Always Greener.
I was going to say Always Greener.
Put together by some college students, I think we determined. College or high? Maybe high school,
college students at the Maharishi International University in Fairfield.
Okay.
Because production quality was fine for college students, but it was the writing and the inventiveness of the story. Because it was kind of a madcap, small town, just various elements of, run by a villainous perfume magnate, and just kind of the kids out on the town doing their thing and lose a backpack, get confused with somebody else's backpack, hijinks ensue.
We got the same sack.
We got the same sack. So yeah, you got our stuff. So just a mistaken property switch. So it's an old trope of, we've seen it before, but they did such a great job of executing it, and they had such characters, and it was just funny. They had just inventive ways to make you laugh. Mm-hmm. So that was always stuck with me. There was another short too called the Audition, that was a mockumentary before that was really a thing. I mean, it was kind of in a lull. You had Spinal Tap and that stuff, but this was in a time where there weren't really mockumentaries happening. And it was such a great thing of an actor who is incredibly full of himself, aspiring actor who's, I'm going to be part of this play. And so he goes to audition, and he's made all these preparations in sort of bizarre ways of, trying to figure out who he should talk to, how he should prepare, and gets there, and he is not ready at all. But in his mind, he thinks he's awesome. So there were just some wonderful things of some great writing there of, we should encourage. Oh, he's getting critiques from the guy, and he says, "What do you think I should do?" I think you should get some tools, and I don't mean metaphorically. I mean some actual tools, because we need someone to build the sets.
that was a good one. I also remember Rigor Mortis.
Yeah.
Rigor Mortis, a zombie musical.
A zombie musical.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It was an ambitious film, and it was just fun. It was great.
Do you remember how long it was?
It was at least an hour.
Yeah,
might have been a full feature. That was Jenny Duas, Stolte at that time. So it was just one of those like swing for the fences. We're going to make a zombie movie that's also a musical.
Yeah.
We've had a few musicals.
Yeah, we've had a few. We have one this year.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, I guess another weird pun intended, but guts. You have to have guts. I'm not just saying it because of zombies. Sorry, that's a bad joke running in my head. But I really think it's like you really have to have some guts and have some vision behind some of these projects that like you put together. And somebody sees like zombie the musicals are like, how does that work?
I mean, there's a risk. Is this gonna? If I put this together, is it gonna fly? Is it gonna be crap? Or are people actually gonna want to see this? Am I gonna be able to get through the whole thing? Well, again, it falls back on the team aspect of filmmaking. Knowing that you've got the right people, supporting you and helping you do it.
Well, being a movies podcast, I'll have this be the final question, and then I'll say my final piece, and then we'll finish this up. What are the favorite movies? Right? Yeah, this is the cliche question, but I'll ask you some.
So I'll never go with one, but I like The Dark Knight is good. The Matrix is good.
Sure.
Guy Ritchie's Snatch, the British gangster
thing
from
99. You going to see the new one, the Operation Fortune?
I just heard about it.
Yeah, I just came out like today at the time of recording.
So yeah, those things, and even small schmaltzy things. I like A Wonderful Life. I revisit now and again, and then sort of a more modern version of that of The Family Man with Nicolas Cage.
Love me some Nicolas Cage.
So there, in any of those stuff, it just depends on what mood you're in.
Yeah,
oh, man. You have to ask those questions.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I was trying to pull up Iowa Film Facebook page because I know I answered that question a couple months ago. I pull up Iowa Film and see what I said. Ghostbusters. I could watch Ghostbusters over and over and over again without tiring of it. Back to the Future, another one.
Oh yeah, Back to the Future. Sure.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. I grew up obviously on Star Wars.
Yeah.
So Empire Strikes Back. But I also like, everybody says, "Oh, I love Citizen Kane. It's so good. Citizen Kane's okay, but I actually like Touch of Evil because getting Charlton Heston to pull off being a Mexican guy is a riot.
It's like when John Wayne's trying to play Genghis Khan.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of John Wayne, I love Stagecoach.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Trying to think, I suppose I should throw some into the ring just because we're talking about this. I think I told you when I met you guys, GoldenEye is very formative for myself. Signs, M. Night Shyamalan movie is also very good. Personal favorites, Lethal Weapon, Adam Sandler and Reign Over Me. I feel like that movie does not get nearly enough love. That one, I surprisingly haven't done a podcast on that one yet. And it's like a very, very personal movie to me. Trying to think of some other ones. Lost in Translation, that's like a good one when it's like it's a rainy day and like I'm feeling lonely and depressed, like I just want to watch Bill Murray in a bathrobe in Japan. Like this sounds right up my alley. Otherwise, like I have a pretty wide palette of stuff. Like I love Matt Reeves' Planet of the Apes trilogy. I think he did remarkable work with that. Yeah. Not just for the motion capture, but for the story and like making apes be seen in the serious light, like not just seen as like animations. It's like there's a real performance behind that. Some of the bigger movies you mentioned, like Dark Knight, of course. I also do love It's a Wonderful Life. I've seen that on the big screen 2 times. It's
really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Stewart. I'm not about to botch a Jimmy Stewart impression. It's been done to death, but love him. And I try to watch some of like the classics, the things that have shaped cinema, if you will, because that's one thing I definitely learned from going to school from graphic design is that almost everything is not truly original. It's always drawn and borrowed off of something. Like you're almost always taking something and then putting your stamp on it, and then it evolves and builds, and that's just how it works. But yeah, I could talk you guys' ears off about all the classic films and whatnot. But I will go ahead and wind this down because I think you guys have been generous with your time. I'm very excited for the festival, and I really do sincerely hope that the audience that's listening comes out, check it out. I mean, seriously, what year is this at the festival? I mean,
it's 20.
20?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Is there going to be something special happening for 20? Or I mean, because sometimes people do something on those milestone years, but
I don't know. Well, let's see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Some surprises, possibly.
Possibly.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Come out and support us because really we do all this work and we can't succeed without an audience. Yeah. The audience is really the final linchpin, key part. So if it's something you're interested in and something you'd like to see, we need an audience.
This is a perfect thing I think to end this on. And I know several people who I won't throw under the bus that do this, but entertainment today and how it's consumed, of course, has evolved massively. I mean, you guys know this between streaming and unfortunately there's pirating services where people are they're not even watching off Disney Plus and these streaming services or even the theater. They watch on these things. But I know several people that do that sort of thing and they're just like, I don't need to go to the theater. Like, oh, why? I don't need to deal with the crowd. I can just watch it at home. I don't need to pay anything. And I'm like, you know what? You might be able to get by a few times with that, and sure, you might not see the effect that has, but if you want people to be able to pursue this with their all and give their time, their money, their energy, you got to put your money where your mouth is. I mean, I speak very passionately about this because I'm like, you got to support it with your wallet.
Yep. I
mean, you have to. Otherwise, like, how do you expect someone to do this? Do you think the government's going to pay for it, or they're going to get charity from somebody? Probably not.
Right.
So I'm very, very big on saying that message out to people is that you need to support art if it's something that you really care about. And financially, of course, there's other ways to support besides financial support. But financial support, I mean, let's face it, that's how the bills get paid.
Exactly. Well, and you bring up a good point because you can watch everything on your iPad or your iPhone at home now. But there is nothing that compares to seeing a film in a theater with an audience to get that communal experience as well as just to feel the reactions of other people. And especially when you come to a festival, where it's not a given. Like I said, Ghostbusters, I could watch over and over again. When was the last time I saw it in a theater? A long, long time ago. Yeah. Would I go to see it in a theater again now? Right now, I would go because there's just something about going to see it.
Yeah.
And to those people that a lot of people don't like going to the theater because crowds, noise, rudeness, whatever. I mean, that's I'll avoid theaters sometimes because if I know a film is going to have a raucous crowd, that I'm not going to be able to enjoy the film.
Right.
One thing about our audiences is they're very respectful.
Yeah.
We have great audiences that are respectful of the filmmakers, respectful of the other patrons. They react to the films, how they're going to react, but they aren't rude. It's really a positive experience. Nobody comes to our film festival wanting to cause trouble.
No.
Or make a scene.
Being there helps you focus. If you're sitting at home on your couch, there's too many distractions.
Oh God, absolutely.
Your phone's right there. Your other, people come in and out. You might even just yourself pausing. Oh, I need to leave. I need to use the bathroom. I need to go get some food or something. But to sit in the auditorium and go, I'm dedicated to this experience right now.
Yep.
It focuses you and changes your viewing so much.
And it's an experience. It's less I'm just watching something as I'm experiencing something.
Yes. And I would absolutely add to this, and I think I actually may have told Bruce Taylor this when I had him on the podcast. For myself, and I've been told, and I stand up against this. I stand up against this. Some people are like, you're like, you're too strict on movies. Like, I can't talk. I can't even get up. I can't even pause it. Because I really, if I have the option, I want to sit through in one sitting, and I want to see it from start to finish, no interruptions. I am watching it. Now,
I should never have you over to my house to watch films with my kids.
Obviously, I'm not that big of a hard ass. Like, I understand.
But I would love to sit next to you in a theater.
I am your dream. I'm a dream theater customer. Like, you won't hear a peep from me. Now, the reason I have such kind of a passion for it, it's not like some strict attention that I'm like I'm obsessed with it like that. But it's because I appreciate the craft. I appreciate the work and the time and the sweat and tears that go into it. And the way I kind of look at seeing a movie is not all that dissimilar from seeing a stage play. In that, if I'm going to see that, people have been rehearsing potentially for months. They're learning the lines. They're doing all this stuff. Like, they are going to give it their all on this stage right now. And I am going to sit there and watch it because that is what they have done for their work. And this is their work paying off, and I'm going to experience it. To me, it is a massive disservice if I get on my phone or if I'm talking and doing these things, because I'm like, that basically shows that somebody dedicated this huge chunk and portion of their life, and I'm just like, you know what, this text message from Papa Murphy's on 25% off a pizza matters more than your film. I respect the art too much to do that. And hopefully more people can do that. And I think the ones that really care, they'll do that. And you guys mentioned it with your crowd, and I have no doubt when I go, I would experience that. Absolutely. So yeah, hopefully next time you go out to a theater, just make sure that you bear in mind that people work really hard for this stuff.
Yep.
That's what I would say. Any final words that you guys would like to say about the festival? Anything else that's on your minds?
I definitely encourage people to come. It's such an interesting window into things you wouldn't necessarily encounter in mainstream cinema.
Yeah.
And not because it's so vast a field. It's just things that are explored intimately, things that are very close to our community in many cases. The other thing that's so interesting to sit there is because everything's Iowa connected, you see a lot of your area in a light that you wouldn't. I'm always impressed to see things that are shot in Cedar Rapids, things that are shot in surrounding towns, to go, wait a second, I recognize that's the thing. They're doing this story around this, but it's right there. It's Green Square Park. It's a square in Marion or something.
Yeah.
You go, I understand what that is. To see your community on the big screen in that way is a very interesting experience.
And I do one thing that maybe we didn't touch on, and I tried to make this very, very clear to people. It's not an Iowa Film Festival that is only full of local films. They have to have an Iowa connection, either by a filmmaker or a cast member, grown up or worked or was educated in the state, or the film has to have something Iowa about the story or about an Iowa true to life person or a fictitious person. But that doesn't mean that they can't be from anywhere. We get films from all over the place, all over the country, overseas. They're not rural only films. They are world class cinema. I mean, it's amazing stuff. So don't. And this actually came up a question on Facebook a couple of months ago. Somebody asked, "Oh, isn't that just for local films?"
Right.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you won't come out of you'll see things you'll see things you recognize, but you'll feel and you'll experience stories that don't always feel like Iowa.
Yeah. I think that says it right there. I mean, I really think everybody, if you take the time to come to this festival, you're going to have an experience you will not get anyplace else. And it's also just a great way, I think, to support, obviously, your local theater, the local people that are in the area trying to make a difference with their art. And yeah, you coming out says a lot, says an awful lot. So definitely take the time to do so. But Eric and Scott, I really appreciate you guys coming on and doing this. I got obviously a couple other pieces of content that'll be coming out for the festival, so look forward to seeing what you guys think about that. But would love to revisit with you too after the festival's wrapped up, so we can kind of evaluate and see how things turned out.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks so much.
Yeah, so I was going to say, hopefully you didn't eat too much Skittles. You probably need a real meal after this. It's not actually real food.
I don't know, Skittles. These are fruit Skittles, so that's kind of a food group, isn't it?
Yeah, it's healthy.
My wife, she's a PhD, like she's a doctor. She'll tell you, right? She'll be that person that's just like, there's not actually like real fruit in that. It's all like syrup and chemicals.
No.
Yeah, to tie it to the Matrix, I'll end on this. Ignorance is bliss.
That's right.
Sometimes
Skittles and ignorance.
All right, thanks so much, guys. I really, really appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.